Or vegetables.
Okay. All right. So let's call the meeting of the Board of Public Works to order on March 22nd, 2018. Diane, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
I'm here.
Commissioner Ackerman,
Here.
Commissioner Pappas,
Here.
Commissioner Tease,
Present.
and Commissioner Moriarty is absent.
And Commissioner Moriarty sent word that he could not make the meeting, so he will not be here at all. Is there a motion regarding the agenda?
I will move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second motion.
Discussion? Yes.
Um,
Commissioner Pappas.
Just, I don't know how other people feel, but I do watch some of the city meetings, and we do have the director's report before we go into the personnel non-public, and I'm wondering if it makes sense to move commissioner comments up there, because sometimes we might have a question to Alderman Jettie or a suggestion, and for him to hear our comments sometimes I think is a good thing, and not to have him wait for after the non-publics. I don't know how other people feel about it.
Diane was just making that suggestion earlier.
Okay. So can I move to amend the agenda and move item 15 to under the director's report? I make that motion?
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? And the motion passes.
I'll move to approve the agenda, well, I already made that motion, I'm sorry.
So you're making a motion now to approve
To
it as
approve the
amended?
amended agenda.
Any discussion? Oh, is there a second on that?
Yeah. Second.
Any discussion? Motion is to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Move to approve the minutes of the Board of Public Works meeting of February 8, 2018.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I'll move to approve the minutes of the Board of Public Works special meeting and budget workshop of February 22nd, 2018.
Second.
Discussion?
We're-
All
We're
those-
we're missing, Commissioner Moriarty here.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Move to approve the minutes of the Board of Public Works special meeting of March 8, 2018. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Go get him, Joel.
I'll move to unseal the non-public minutes from the Board of Public Works meeting of February 8th, 2018.
I'll second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item is public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak to the Board of Public Works on any matter? Seems not.
Since I was mentioned before, could the record reflect that I'm here?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. I'm looking across the way there, yes. Alderman Jettie is, of course, present as the aldermanic liaison.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding me.
Mayor, before we go to the aldermanic referral, we do have our deputy city engineer here. Could maybe we introduce him and then he could leave?
To discuss this? To discuss what?
Just introduce him to the board.
Oh. Our deputy.
Peter, our deputy city engineer is here, Peter Cahalmi. Steve, you want to come up and introduce Peter, or thought you might like to meet him?
Yeah, that'd be
We approved him at the last meeting.
Well, I think Peter knows himself better than I do, so let him introduce himself. How about that?
Sure, that's fine.
Hi, everybody. My name is Pete Cahalmi. I'm your new deputy city engineer, and very happy to be here with the city. Looking forward to working with Steve and Lisa and Andy. My background briefly, about 20 years in the private sector, working for several engineering consultant firms, mostly in the Manchester area. But I'm very happy to be here. and look forward to working with everybody.
Excellent.
Great.
I'm happy to have
Thank
you.
Yes, absolutely, thank you.
All right, we have an aldermanic referral, 018-007.
I'll move for a positive recommendation of 018-007, prohibiting placing or blowing yard debris in the street.
Second?
Discussion? Commissioner Ackerman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I read it, I'm not on that page right now, but there was a reference to what the, I believe the fine could be if they did, but I didn't see, it just referenced to some item, but it didn't actually say what the fine could be. I was curious. Let me find that page in the agenda, and, well, maybe it was in my,
There is a fine, and I can't recall, anybody recall what the fine is for snow? It would be the same for pushing snow.
Fine up to $1,000.
Yeah, I think it's a fine up to $1,000. This is something that's enforceable by the police department,
By the-
not by Public Works.
okay. So, yeah, so what is that reference? It says 1-12 in the last sentence of the ordinance here. What is that? It's is it a legal symbol of some sort, or is it
That's
section?
another section of the ordinances.
Okay,
So that says section 1-12,
Okay.
so it refers to another,
okay, and this
Another-
then makes it enforceable by the city police. I get it.
and it sets forth what the fine would be.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Pappas.
It's unfortunate that this does have to be a law. My fear, and it's interesting that Commissioner Ackerman asked about enforcement, because I do think whether it's us or whether it's the police, it's really hard to enforce some of these issues. And I didn't know if Alderman Jettie was on that committee or not. There's one exception to this, if people are reasonable. Some people have very difficult yards to deal with, and they blow their stuff in the street, and they have a yard, probably not one of the higher ends, but, probably a, Joe Smith type of one-man band come and vacuum up their leaves. I've been aware of two places through the just fairly close that have done that. I do remember saying to the rolling my eyes to the director, because I had a neighbor who's since moved out of town that did it. And they were out there for like 2 or 3 weeks, and I get it's a problem for us, the city, having it blow into storm drains and that sort of thing. But I have noticed someone else who does it, and they have a very difficult yard to deal with. It's a lot of hill, and they have something like Pachysandra, and I've seen them do that, and they usually have it gone within 2 days. So if I'm aware myself of 2 situations where people do blow them in the street, I don't know if, I guess maybe we give people a couple of days, maybe we can just ignore it and hope that if someone lets it go for more than 2 days, that the police will give them tickets. But I don't know how other people felt. And, because I do know with the snow in the street, I've seen people throw the snow in the street, and I've also seen people drive their car, they're supposed to clear your cars in your driveway. And other people will, they do it on my street a lot, they'll pull their cars up and they'll throw it in the street, which is unfortunate. But I don't think that we, just for the Board of Aldermen, I really don't think that we enforce that. I don't know, unless, the director may have more, for snow, she might have more of insight.
You're correct. It does happen a fair amount, Commissioner Pappas, and people are not supposed to push snow into the street or onto the sidewalk, but it does happen. We don't usually enforce upon it, though, unless, because there's a fair amount of it, we don't enforce upon it unless there's an issue, or somebody complains, or there's a sight distance issue, or something like that. But it is difficult to enforce. It is difficult to enforce.
So I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts, or if they've seen people blow them in the street, and then, apparently this is big. Some of the Massachusetts and Connecticut must be smaller towns than we have, but that's one of the things that the towns do for people, is if they, during a certain period of time, if they blow their leaves in the street, the city comes by and sucks them up. Obviously, we don't have the resources to do that. So I think a lot of people who do that might be from out of state, that I've never heard of such a thing. But it's around, so I don't know if people think that we should just say, well, it's going to take a couple of days for the police to get there or not, or if something should be written in. I don't know. But that's my observation.
Well, the pending motion, I believe, is to recommend final passage.
So if I could say something?
Yes, Alderman Jettie.
So Commissioner Ackerman asked about the 1-12, so I looked it up, and it's the general penalty for violation of ordinances. And it says, whenever in the code or in any ordinance of the city, any act is prohibited or made or declared to be unlawful, it shall be punished by a fine of not more than $1,000. So that's the general penalty provision, and so that's what that refers to. You know, this just had its first reading before the Board of Aldermen, and I don't remember which committee it was referred to.
I think it was infrastructure, if I'm
So
correct.
if it was infrastructure, I'm on infrastructure, and we haven't discussed it yet, but something along the same lines that you're talking about. The intention of the ordinance is just to add the verb blow in there, and add yard debris, including but not limited to leaves and grass clippings. The rest of the ordinance is what is in effect now, but I, like you, look at the ordinance, and when you're talking about blowing leaves or grass clippings into or across the right-of-way of any way, street, lane, or alley, so theoretically, this would prohibit you from blowing the leaves off of your property onto the street to the truck that's waiting to the vacuum to suck it up. So technically, that would be a violation of this ordinance. So I agree with you. I think we have to, if it's the infrastructure committee that it's coming to, that we'll have to think about how to word that to not make the removal of leaves, a technical violation of the ordinance. And I think it's Alderman Melissa
Yes,
Easy goal, yeah.
yeah, it is,
Segolia
yeah.
that has proposed this, and so maybe she would have more comments about it, and maybe we can work with her to make it more reasonable.
Well, do you want to do anything other than just a flat endorsement, or do you want to?
I'm wondering, and if it's not a 911 emergency, we're looking outside with all this snow, if we can table it and make the suggestion.
I don't think there's any urgency at
Okay.
all.
I mean, it is nice to be able to call and say that, and if we do grant that exception of blowing them out in the street, I think there should be a time limit. As I said, I think I had spoken to the director when I had a neighbor that did, like, literally, they were out there for like 2.5 weeks. And, so if we say like a couple of days, and I know the other person that I've seen do it, they were gone within a day or two. So, I don't know if
Well, I
people
think
feel
if
about
you
tabling.
can include the word reasonableness. To me, it's common sense or reasonableness, right? If people need to take their waste out via the method you suggested, go ahead and do it. But if you're going to blow it into the street and leave it there for a week, that's not going to work.
So, I don't know if people feel like that maybe we can table it and have Alderman Jettie bring the suggestion. I don't know how other people feel about it.
Certainly. I do have one other,
Commissioner Ackerman?
yeah, I do tend to agree with I think the intent is there. I think the
Yes.
wordsmithing might need a little bit of work. One thing that, as I read it, and I think about the conversation here, is, let's say the businesses along Main Street, the sidewalks are relatively big. If they clear a path to make it safe for people to enter their businesses or not, they might actually take the snow and move it to the edge of the sidewalk and bring it up, because I don't think there's a way to actually eliminate all that snow that's out there by themselves. So that would be a concern that I might also interject.
It's not city property, though, the sidewalks.
It might be city property, but at the same time, if they're doing their due diligence to make access to their businesses safe, they're still blowing the snow from one edge of the sidewalk onto the other. And by this ordinance, it would
Oh, I
still
see what-
be a possible fine.
Well,
But I don't think
this-
that's the
this-
intent.
The snow already exists, and the language really is in the right-of-way, street, lane, or alley. So it's not, it doesn't really say anything about the sidewalk, but there is some reasonableness. We don't, if something like this happened, we wouldn't call the police right away. We would go to the resident and we would talk to them. And if they said, we have somebody coming to pick up the leaves, we certainly wouldn't call the police department. We'd wait, allow them to remove the leaves. So we usually, there's usually a couple of things that happen before the police would be called. There would be a personal contact first and then a letter prior to that happening. So it isn't just, instantaneous, call the police. And as far as the merchants on Main Street, you're correct, Commissioner Ackerman, they do push the snow to the edge of the curb, and then we do some removal and
Within a reasonable amount of time.
Correct, yes.
Correct, to your point.
Commissioner Tease.
What is the genesis of this? Has there been an ongoing problem clogging the wastewater pipes or something like that, or is it a one-off situation that we?
I'm not really sure. This isn't a huge issue as far as I know, but I'm not sure. I can't really answer that.
Alderman Jettie.
I just want to point out that the existing ordinance says it talks about the right-of-way, and it's for the purpose of this section, right-of-way means street and
Street or
sidewalk.
sidewalk.
So street and sidewalks are specifically included.
Yep.
And I think, I would, what Alderman Melissa Golia has proposed is not a change to the part that we're raising an issue about is largely what's in the ordinance already. But now that we're looking at it, I think it's an opportunity for us to clarify this. And, personally, although you might send a letter and be very reasonable in the enforcement of it, another director in 10 years from now may not be as nice as you are, and I don't think we ought to have laws that don't mean what they say. They say what they mean, and they should be. We ought to write them in a way that makes the literal enforcement of it not unreasonable. And I don't think we ought to leave it to the police or the Director of Public Works to insert the reasonableness. I think we ought to write the law so that it's already reasonable.
But you've got to remember that there are very different situations. For instance, if you have a business that's pushing snow into the street on Kinsley, I'm going to enforce upon that immediately. I have to, because that's a huge safety issue for our residents. So, I mean, you have to give us a little bit of leeway there, because there are a lot of different situations in which somebody might be pushing snow or leaves into the right of way, So there needs to be a little bit of flexibility, I think, there. Because we do have those issues too.
So can I move to table? I think that's what I'm gonna.
Do you have to retract your motion?
Motion is to table. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. Discussion?
Table with,
Is-
and have Alderman Jettie kind of own it and bring it back.
Right. Yes.
Alderman Jettie, do you want to do that?
Yes, yeah, I'll convey your concerns to the committee and give them an opportunity to refine it, so to speak.
Okay. All right, we've got a motion to table. Alderman Jettie's going to come back with some more input. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? And the motion passes, and the item is tabled till the next meeting. Street Department.
I'll move to approve the purchase of two 2019 HV 507 SFA cab and chassis trucks from Liberty International of Manchester, New Hampshire, for the price of $88,900 each, for a total of $177,800. Funding will be through Department 161 Street Trust Activity Surf.
I'll second.
And Mr. Barr, would you mind coming up just in case on any of these items we have any questions?
And John,
Um,
Fleet Manager John
Oh, the
Stewart
fleet
is also.
manager is here too. So we have the fleet manager and the superintendent of the streets. So the motion is to approve the purchase. Is there discussion? Commissioner Pappas?
I didn't see, the maintenance records as of 2012. I thought we were going to be able to have those. I thought starting in 2012, not obviously for the new ones, but for the ones that are going to be replaced.
We did talk about that. I don't know under what circumstances we were going to come up with them or when, but we did.
I think it's always nice to see a new face, and when we saw the fleet manager, because I've made several references to this, because I do think for us to do our due diligence, it's a good thing to be able to see what maintenance is done, and I realize that we may not be able to have the records on that until 2012, but my understanding was anything from 2012 on, we had.
Can either of you speak to the maintenance that's been done, or?
Yeah, we can speak to that. I was unaware of that request from earlier. But yes,
And which one are we talking about, which truck?
the six-wheeler cab and chassis.
Cabin chassis? Those are replaced 32 and 33. 32 has been out of service for approximately a year.
Right.
The engine blew up, had a catastrophic failure. And in doing so, it overheated, transmission overheated, both of them are burnt out, and the radiator blew out of it. That has been a donor vehicle, other parts, to keep 33 on the road. Both of them are suffering severe corrosion and rust to the frame and understructure.
I feel, I do understand it does look like, certainly we've driven those, but I, in the future, I don't want to be a jerk and vote no on things I know we need, but as someone who keeps their vehicle for a while, I do think keeping maintenance records are really important. That's one of the things, I think before both of you were on the board, we decided to add new positions, and fleet manager being one of them, and they said that we would be able to, my understanding was that we would have better records of maintenance done to vehicles.
So are you able to bring up, so to speak, extract from the
Yes, I can.
computer system, the maintenance records regarding a specific vehicle?
Yes.
And I think as we understand it, the records aren't good before 2012, but
Correct.
since then, that's pretty consistent. And if you did that, is that for one vehicle, is it a page, is it 10 pages? What?
You can get a condensed version, or you can get a very drawn-out version.
What is a condensed version? How long?
Basically, you'd have to know system codes.
But I mean, is that, is that one page, one
It
sentence?
may be 3 pages.
A condensed version and
Yeah,
a
3
full,
pages.
a
Full
full,
version, one vehicle could easily be 10, 12, 14 pages.
so what do you think, the condensed version? What do you want?
I don't know, I mean, I just, I feel as if we spend an awful lot of money on vehicles, and it was, I think, when the former mayor did City Stat, we just kind of came up with, this is how we're going to replace our vehicles. And sometimes I feel as if we don't go back and evaluate some of the, some of the decisions we made, and I just feel as if we could, get it in an email, I would feel better to say, yes, we are doing our due diligence, we're seeing what the maintenance is. Because we do, for the public's sake, we do spend a lot of money on vehicles. I realize that salting and sanding and the hauling we do, that we can't keep our vehicles as long as people's personal vehicles. But people are looking at, well, we have 2 full-time shifts of mechanics. And I do think it may not be a bad idea for us to be able to take a peek at, the 10 or 12
Do you
pages.
prefer the full version or the condensed version?
I mean, if the full version is, as long as we have it,
Now, we can,
we-
that could be.
via email, I mean,
that
you
could
wouldn't
be
have to
email,
print
but
it.
it should also be attached to the agenda, because.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Because otherwise, we get right-to-know issues if we're considering things that
Okay.
are not visible. All right, so the request is that in the future, with respect to new vehicles that we're purchasing, that the,
Replace, yeah.
what do we call this? The maintenance record is going to be circulated and attached to the agenda. Now, why don't we try the full version? If we see we're getting so much paperwork, maybe we could reduce
Okay.
it to the condensed. I don't know what these things look like. Is anybody got any problems with that?
No.
Commissioner Tease?
I just have a question of Mr. Stewart. I got it right, right?
Yes.
So I've never changed my own oil. So am I going to be able to read this report and really understand and glean information? Because candidly, I come to the meeting and I have the full faith and confidence of the director and the superintendents telling me that, you need X, Y, and Z. I'm not confident that I could read a report and, I'd rather hear it from you.
Yeah,
And what
the
you told me
condensed
was very
version
valuable.
Could be difficult to read because it's just system codes.
The
Okay,
condensed version?
Yes.
Yeah.
but the longer version would be of value?
Longer version will break it down more.
Okay.
Give explanations as to what the
So
system
you're looking
codes
just
are.
to memorialize that we've done due diligence as opposed to challenge it?
Absolutely. For example, I mean, my husband got a used vehicle for my son. I said, how many miles on it? Has the timing belt been changed? At a certain number of miles. If you keep your vehicles a long time, you really should pay attention to that. So I just feel as if for the public doing the due diligence,
okay.
it's not, no, I think that we can go through 5 more oil changes before we replace this vehicle. It's not, I don't,
The reality is, these are public documents, so anybody who requests them, really, we have to produce them. So now we've got a commissioner, and, okay, we'll do that. So, from now on, we'll have a copy of the maintenance record and with respect to vehicles that are going to be purchased. Commissioner Ackerman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I've had the fortunate experience to be on the board for 2 years now, and we've been approving a number of different vehicles through the SURF program. And so today I had the opportunity to go out to the website and looked up the SURF program, and one of the top 3 things that it did pull up was this document. It's from April the 20th of 2015. I was pleasantly surprised or delighted to hear that Vehicle 32 was estimated replacement cost 2 years ago was $110,000. And through today's quote, they're actually saving the city quite a bit of money from what they estimated 2 years ago, where the cost is closer to $90,000, $88,900. And what was in the SURF program was amount of $115,500 from last year in 2017, that they've actually held off one entire year to replace this. So I get it, I like the data, and in fact, if you look at item 32 and 33, the amount estimated in the SURF program was $262,000 between these two vehicles. But if you look at today's motion to replace these two vehicles, it's $177,800. Without all that additional information and knowing that they're doing their due diligence on repairs and maintenance, I don't know if we necessarily need that level of detail at our level, but they're actually saving the city the difference between $262,000 down to $178,000 by replacing these vehicles.
85,000.
Yes. Thank you.
Not good for something.
I know you. Just an observation, and I'm sure as we go through some of this, maybe the opposite happens. Maybe a piece of equipment costs us slightly more, but I don't know if we necessarily need that. You guys decide, but I like what we see, and I'll support these two vehicles.
As a point of information, if the vehicle comes in higher than the SURF estimate, and if that difference is 10% or more, it needs to be voted on again by the Board of Aldermen. Because the Board of Aldermen has approved these, the purchases that are, like, part of the SURF schedule for the year appears in the budget. And as part of the approval of the budget, the Aldermen are voting on the equipment that's going to be purchased. And if then any piece of equipment comes in at 10% or more, that has to go back to the Alderman for a new vote on that one piece.
Good to know.
Just for, now, when we save money, they're fine, we don't have to vote on that again. But that, rarely does it come in over 10%, but I guess it has happened, now and again. All right, so the motion, I believe, has been made and seconded to approve the purchase of the two cabin chassis trucks.
Yes, sir.
And in the future, we are going to, until we change it, we're going to be producing, until and if we change it, we're going to be producing the maintenance records regarding any vehicles that we're purchasing, which I do think will be kind of an interesting exercise. Although, I think it may add to the thickness of our packet, but it'll be interesting to see it. Is there any further discussion?
Just one other point, just to educate me. So on item 33, at one time or another, it was estimated that the replacement cost on that vehicle was $146,000. Is there something drastically different with what that estimate was a couple of years ago in comparison?
We included the spreaders, the box spreaders on that, include that with the SURF purchase.
I see.
Otherwise, it would be a tailgate spreader, which is very inefficient.
Yeah, they put some-
Okay. So we're not buying that item that was
It's a
estimated?
package deal.
It's a package deal at the lower price
A lot.
of $88,900?
That is for the cabin chassis.
Okay.
But you're saying that the spreader is not being purchased at
The
this?
spreader's being purchased with the upfit package.
Which is another motion in the packet here.
Yeah.
Another
So as
motion.
we move through tonight, you'll see that upfit package. That's also funded through SURF.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve the purchase of one 2019 HV 513 cab chassis truck from Liberty International in Manchester, New Hampshire, for the price of $117,800. Funding will be through Department 161 Street, Fund Trust Activity CERF.
Second the motion?
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes.
I'll move to approve the purchase of 2 6-wheel and 1 10-wheel dump truck upfitting equipment packages from HP Fairfield of Pembroke, New Hampshire, for the price of $71,856.50, each for the 600-wheel and $75,249.50 for the 10-wheel packages, for a total of $218,962.50. Funding will be through Department 161 Streets Fund Activity Surf.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Is,
Commissioner Ackerman?
is this the item that you were referring to was in addition to, so this is still part of item 32 and 33?
Yes, that makes the trucks complete.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Anything else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes.
I move to approve the purchase of 1 3-ton capacity Falcon asphalt recycler and hot box trailer from HP Fairfield, Pembroke, New Hampshire, for the price of $31,286. Funding will be through Department 161 Street Fund Trust Activity CERF.
Second motion?
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? The motion passes.
I'll move to approve the purchase of 3 2018 Ford F-250 pickup trucks from MHQ Municipal Headquarters of Marlborough, Mass. for a total cost of $123,822.75. Funding will be through Department 161 Street Fund Trust Activity Surf.
I'll second.
Discussion? Commissioner Ackerman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just out of curiosity, I like to keep things in city and in state. Is there any vendor that has this equipment available in the state of New Hampshire?
The New Hampshire state bid is only open for about 2 months. That time, I guess the money was not approved to be spent from SERF.
Okay.
So MHQ is the equivalent of a state bid,
It is off the state bid down there.
just a different vendor.
Okay, but there wasn't a local vendor in the city or the state, correct? Is that what I'm hearing?
Not that had a state bid current at the time.
Okay, fair enough.
I think what they're saying is if they go through the state bidding systems, they get a better price.
Correct.
Because there's a volume, there's the force of volume. So if New Hampshire's state bid put out by the state is open, they can kind of latch onto that. Whereas if it's not, now they're using the Massachusetts state bidding system to get the best possible price.
Very good, thank you.
Correct? Is that?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
And to your point, whenever possible, we keep it home.
Right. Because I would think that it would make it a lot easier for bringing the vehicle back for a repair if it needed a repair.
Or actually, Best Ford, they honor MHQ's trucks.
Well, good to know. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Move to approve the purchase of a Caterpillar 120M2 motor grader from Milton Cat of Londonderry, New Hampshire. The total price is $244,000 even. Funding will be through Department 160 Engineering Fund Grant Activity Highway Block Grant.
Second the motion.
We do E. Any discussion? Commissioner Ackerman?
I think through some conversation I had prior to the meeting, that this is a net new piece of equipment for the city, and it's no impact to the city budget, and it's all coming out of the block grant.
Correct.
Okay, super, thank you.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. We now have an informational item, which is the annual Street Department Spring Cleanup. Who's going to brief us on that? Or is this, you just want an acceptance of this, or you want a verbal update?
People can hear it if they want to read it through.
The dates of the cleanup are April 9th through April 20th. The and residents must make an appointment with the street department at 589-4750 for this pickup between the dates of March 31st and April 11th. Acceptable items include brush. The cut end should be toward the street, no larger than 4-inch diameter and no longer than 8 feet. Shrubs are also acceptable, but should be cleaned of sand and soil. Picnic tables, wood only. And doors, glass must be secure and nails removed, and wood posts without concrete. Unacceptable items would include metal and household hazardous waste, which can be brought at different times, so. And also, all of these items can, of course, be brought to the Forest Hills landfill during regular business hours.
Any discussion, questions? If not, we'll go to Parks and Rec.
Oh, I think Commissioner Pappas has
Oh,
a-
sorry, Commissioner Pappas.
I don't know if people have seen what people leave out, but I have someone who takes full advantage of it, and literally I've seen them fill up a whole truck. But on the other hand, we don't have stick pickup, so I wasn't sure if perhaps if someone had a smaller cleanup that kind of fell under these items, if, rather than to me, if you have a small amount, to leave it on the side of the street, it would be it's harder for people to pick up. Would it be okay if they took those items, if they're acceptable, but a smaller amount, and put them in, say, garbage pails that you use for soft yard waste?
We usually ask that they don't sometimes the sticks get lodged in, so it's really difficult to get them out. We prefer that they just put them on the ground.
But even if someone has a fairly small amount, they can just throw it by the street?
Yeah.
And they should probably specify that it's not a whole lot?
They could, yes, absolutely.
But you prefer that it not be
We
in barrel?
prefer that it's
Okay,
not
'cause
in a
it looks so
barrel.
messy when it's on the street.
I know, it does. They could put it in a barrel. Sometimes we have a difficult time because residents will really lodge those sticks into the barrel, and it's hard to get them out.
Okay.
So that's why it's easier and quicker for us to just pick up the sticks, if it's just on the side of the street.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because it's kind of messy out there with the snow. I've seen people put it.
it is,
just-
it can be.
Okay.
And it's not that we wouldn't pick it up, but if it's lodged in the barrel, then we wouldn't be able to pick it
Okay.
up, so,
All right, thank
Yeah.
you.
sure.
Now on to Park Rec. Why doesn't Mr. Caggiano come forward? We have 3 informational items.
Thank you, Mayor. Nick Caggiano, National Parks and Rec. I know some of you have been on the board for a while. I've given you an update every year on a significant pest that's affected the forest across the United States, and it's now in New Hampshire. So I did provide you a map, and you could, I'm not going to talk for a long time, but the emerald ash borer is significantly affecting ash trees in the state. It is not in Nashua yet, but it will be at some point over the next few years. And the map kind of shows you how things are happening. There is no cure for it. And it was kind of funny, after I wrote my memo, I got my Park and Rec Business magazine, and on the front page is, be smart about ash. And this is in Colorado, and they're doing a community program to identify the pests. So I go to the meetings, I'm a member of the State Community Forestry Council, and as we go to these meetings and I get more information, I think it's important that I update you, because at some point, we're going to be looking at a significant tree failure in the right-of-way for most ash trees, and we're going to need to be able to think about how we're going to remove them and how are we going to replace them with another species so that we don't lose our street cover. So, yes, sir.
Out of curiosity, why are they attracted to one tree rather than the other?
Just because of the type of tree that it is. It's a pest that came in from Asia, and it started in Michigan, and it's just worked its way right across the United States. I've left you
a packet from Michigan State that kind of explains the pest. It's affecting the wood bat baseball bat system.
Yeah.
Most baseball bats are made of ash. And now they're starting to make them out of maple. It's that significant that they're gonna be a problem. Maybe there'll be a cure. They experiment with different parasitic wasp or different natural pests, and, but so far, there hasn't been one.
Other discussion? Commissioner Pappas?
I don't know that we ever discussed this. Any sense is the percentage of city trees that we're gonna be responsible for that are ash? Any guesstimate or no?
I can give you a pretty good idea. So we are in a zone of, a forestry zone that, the significant species are birch, maple, oak, and ash. So we're in a birch, maple, oak, ash zone. So based on that, you could say anywhere between 20 and 30% of the roadside trees have a good chance of being an ash tree.
Thanks.
Commissioner Ackerman?
Thank you. Very informative. Thank you very much. You say there's no cure. I would assume that the environmentalists are doing things to do prevention. Is there anything that the city of Nashua could do?
We don't need to yet, but at some point, we would do things that follow the state guidelines, which are, don't let firewood leave. There's certain state statutes, like right now, you're not allowed to bring firewood across state lines just because of this problem. And that's what the article in Denver was about. So I'll do some research on that. And at some point, we're going to have a discussion about how we're going to tackle this problem.
So is there a motion to accept the communication and place it on file?
I'll move to accept and place on file.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We next have informational item having to do with the 2018 summer camp flyer.
I'll move to accept and place on file the 2018 summer camp flyer.
Second.
Is there anything you wish to add, Mr. Fabiano?
Just that we had a real successful season last year. Signups have already begun online. The software that we purchased and we displayed for you last year has done very, very well. It's made the whole process a lot easier. Tennis camps are starting to fill up, basketball, and believe it or not, we already have 6 people signed up for swim lessons, which, looking outside, is a pretty neat thing.
Commissioner Tease?
One administrative question, really. So this website domain is not the city, so is this a firm that helps with the scheduling, this rec desk? And
Rec
we just
desk.
go- Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Ackerman?
Thank you. While we have Superintendent Caggiano with us, I noticed a comment in our packet about the summer fund program, and that there was a fundraising campaign going on, and there was a goal of raising $20,000 and $11,500 in commitments. Is that correlate to what our aldermanic liaison, Alderman Jettie, had asked about relative to the fireworks program, or is that something else?
No, it's strictly for summer fun. We try and raise $20,000 every year through businesses and corporate sponsors and some individual donations. And we're as of this week, we're very close to making an agreement with Whole Foods, and I think we're going to be at about $13,000 by the end of the week. We should get to the 20. Kelly's been doing a great job with this.
And summer fun, just from my own knowledge, is more than just the July 4th activities for the children.
Yeah.
It's a whole series of programs that your flyer will be coming out.
Yep.
Okay.
Over 60 events that we put on summer, season-wide. The Fairy Tale Festival opening day, the PAL fishing derby, Wheels and Wings, the 4th of July is part of it, and all the other Shakespeare in the Park and all the other events.
Super. Thank you very much.
Anything else? Motions to accept and place on file.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes.
I'll move to accept and place on file the 2018 proposal to make a new copy of, to make a new copy of the missing sword at Soldiers and Sailors Monument.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Commissioner Teets?
I'm embarrassed to say, where is that monument? Is it the one at the top?
It's one at the top of Library
It
Hill.
is, okay.
And I,
That's what it looks like, but I just don't recognize the sailor.
yeah, and apparently, really quickly, the sword it's never been here in my tenure. It's never been in place. No one really knows where it is. And Miss Galbo, Miss Lori Galbo, who is, I believe, on the Downtown Improvement Committee, came up with this idea and worked out a deal with Make It Labs, and for about $20 of material, they're gonna make a replica. They're gonna antique it properly, and we're gonna put it in place and secure it so it won't go, so it'll look like the original picture. So I thought it was a pretty worthwhile adventure to work with them on that.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Caggiano. So now we'll move to wastewater.
I'll move to approve the user warrants as presented.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And the motion passes.
Move to approve the purchase of 4 impeller wear rings and 3 wear plates for our 4 raw sewage pumps in the amount of $51,200 even from Xylem of Woburn, Massachusetts. Funding will be through Department 169 wastewater, Fund wastewater, account category 54 property services.
Second.
Second the motion.
And the superintendent is here for any questions that you may have. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes.
I'll move to approve change order number 3 to the digester cleaning project with Denali Water Solutions in an amount not to exceed $95,000. Funding will be through Department 169 Fund wastewater account category 81 buildings and improvements.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes.
I'll move to approve the residential and commercial wastewater service permit fees as submitted.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is there another aye? All those in favor say
Aye.
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 All right, now.
We're
on the
laughing
next-
at the next one.
All right.
I think on the next one, we could just say
Move to approve as presented.
on the agenda. Otherwise, we will be here till 8 o'clock reading
I
the,
move to approve Section 12 engineering motion B as presented.
Second.
any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Move to approve the engineering
Now,
oh,
Why don't we
sorry.
bring up Mr. Dukern in
Sorry.
case there's anything you want
Just
to
coughing, just
discuss?
thinking about reading.
I told Julie.
While he's coming up, if I could ask, what, PSNH, do they still exist?
That's a good question. They have a different name. now.
Eversource, yeah.
Eversource.
Good question. So you're asking why are these things labeled with a PSNH name? Probably that's
I
just,
don't want to ask an inappropriate question, but it did cross my mind.
I could help you with that. The poles are still numbered on the PSNH system. So this is an old numbering system.
So the lease doesn't refer to PSNH, this just refers to the,
The numbering system, and they still use the old form with the PSNH name on it.
so it's just the poles and where they're located.
That's correct, yes.
Thank you.
Item C.
I move to approve the engineering contract with Stantec Consulting Services, Inc. of Burlington, Massachusetts, for the 2018 pavement management analysis update in an amount not to exceed $52,700. Funding is through the multi-year paving project Department 160 Admin/Engineering Fund Bond Activity Paving.
Second?
Any discussion? Commissioner Ackerman.
Yeah, while we had the city engineer in front of us, just curious how Stantec is doing and adding value to the whole process, because I know that you're pretty high on them. Is that still the case?
Yes, so Stantec produced the original report that we used to move forward with the program, and we are using them every year. The intention was to do a third every year of reevaluation of the city's network, but because we skipped a year, we had last year we had them do 50%, and this year we'll do the other 50%. Moving forward beyond this year, we'll go back to the 1/3. So their evaluation is pretty helpful in us selecting the streets and moving forward.
So each street is given a PCI, or paving condition index number, and that helps them select which streets are most cost-effective to improve. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I'll move to approve the engineering contract with Stantec Consulting Services, Inc. of Burlington, Mass. for a pavement degradation study due to utility cuts in an amount not to exceed $24,400. Funding is through multi-year paving project Department 160 Admin and Engineering Fund Bond Activity Paving.
I'll second.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Move to approve change order number 3 for the citywide infiltration inflow analysis to Wright Pierce of Manchester, New Hampshire, in an amount of $140,336.00. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund, Wastewater Activity, Inflow, and Infiltration.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I'll move to approve change order number 1 for the 2017 sewer project to DeFleece Corporation of Drake, Mass. in an amount of $68,687.80. Funding is through Department 169 Wastewater Fund, Wastewater Activities, Sewer Rehab, and Sewer Structures.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we have administration, which is, thank you, Mr. Dukran. Next, we have administration, which is going to consist of the director's report.
Okay, this is a multi-family dwelling, and we had to do a sewer replacement. And you can see the challenges here. We had to go under a duct bank and water mains, so, and that work was done by Newport Construction.
How many units?
I don't know the answer to
Multifamily,
that.
What's a duct bank?
The duct, see the pipe? That's what the duct bank is.
The blue pipe or the?
Or the
No,
holes?
this is the blue pipe is the new sewer service, and see the
holes?
duct bank right there is well, it's listed there. It's where it looks kind of pebbled. So we have to go underneath that.
So it's the solid part.
Correct. Yes. And then you can see the water line right next to it.
So I see the.
So the new
picture,
sewer service had to go underneath both of those.
And I'm still not clear what the duct bank is.
Just, yeah, just whatever, it could be communication lines or whatever.
Oh,
That's-
okay.
Yeah.
So it's a pipe of sorts.
A pipe of sorts that we have to
Yeah,
go
conduit.
in. Correct. Some conduit, yes. This is the Girls Biddy Champions, the Panthers. Their game was on March 9th. Congratulations to them on a successful season. The Biddy Boy Champions are the Braves. They played in their tournament on March 9th as well. This is a picture of the Biddy Basketball All-Stars, and that game was played on Friday and Saturday, March 16th and 17th. The girls' junior Biddy champions were the Lakers. The difference between the regular Biddy is 10 to 12, and the junior Biddy is ages 7 to 9, just in case you're wondering. So the Lakers are the girls' junior Biddy champions. This is some winter activity in Mine Falls Park. You can see the egret on the left, which is pretty cool, that we came across. And you can see some residents taking advantage of the warm spell we had. Which seems like so long ago.
It does seem like a long time ago.
We have had to remove snow from Stella Stadium 4 times. Spring sports began March 26th
Why do
Actually-
we remove snow?
in order to be able to use the field. We have to get the snow off the field because we're going to be using it soon on March 26th.
Why not wait until the snow's done?
Wait until the snow's.
Until it melts.
Well, because we try to remove it when we're getting close, because we don't want to damage the field, so it's better to remove a little bit at a time, and it's easier, so.
So do we remove it after every storm, or,
Only when it comes close to playing time,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I
So
think-
I think the answer is we're
just- we
getting
try
all
to
these
keep it clean.
surprise storms. We're getting all these surprise storms, so they keep thinking, oh, that's the last one, let's go make the field so that someone might be able to use it pretty soon, and then there's another storm. And I
Because
don't think your custom is to do it 4 times.
No,
No.
not typically.
I think the
But we
spring,
do try to remove it if a little bit at a time, because that helps too.
I know the spring sports season started the 19th. Monday was the 19th of, right? That was the 19th of March, and it was,
They may, and the
it's
kids
really
may have
crowded
been
in the
on
gyms
it.
at the
I
high
just don't know the
schools.
answer to that. They may have been on it already, so that may be why. Just here's some culvert work. When we took advantage of a brief warm spell and replaced a drainage culvert at Field 1 at the main Dunstable rectangular field. This is a picture of some picnic tables that the Park and Rec employees have built over the winter between snowstorms. We do that every year. This is some manhole repair. This work continues year-round. This is actually a Kinsley Street manhole cover. Sewer repairs, many different areas, Oldfield Road, Arrow Lane, Elm Street, Patton Court. This is some work that's been done actually by our own crews. This has been a tough winter for potholes and our infrastructure. This is a sinkhole that occurred at the intersection of Patton Court and Ledge Street. I think our mill and fill program will be very busy this year.
I think so.
This is winter storm cleanup on Berkeley Street. We have been hosting the PAL Kids each month at a different department. The last visit was at wastewater, and they were brave enough to climb all the way to the top of the digester, so you can see them on the top there. That's a long climb. This is maintenance truck 136 from wastewater. This is a truck that's used to maintain the pump stations and perform some field work. This was approved back in August, so just wanted to let you know we received it. And these are gearboxes that were replaced in the wash press. We had, originally we had faulty gearboxes, and the manufacturer replaced it at no cost, so.
So did we do the work, or did they do the work?
They did the work, yeah.
What does the gearbox do?
What this does is, it removes, it cleans out the rags and things that we screen out of the wastewater.
Yeah, people,
and remove some of the organics too.
a few years ago, I was shocked when we were ordering some pump, and they said they make sure that a pair of jeans can go through it. Apparently, the stuff that you got, that is found in the wastewater is,
Yeah,
you'd be surprised at what people try to flush down, and
yeah. It's the wash presses. These are the gearboxes for the wash presses that do that, yep. So the digester cleaning is finally done. We have slowly been filling the digester. We now have enough gas to light the flare, which is great. And we have probably 4 to 6 more weeks before our solids will be classified as Class B, like they were. But everything's moving in the right direction, and the inspection of the egg was very good. We didn't have any deficiencies,
Good.
so that was good news.
how often do they come in? Oh, sorry.
Light the flare, what's,
So what we do with the digester is the digester, of course, produces methane. So what we normally do is we have a generator, and then we produce power with that, our net metering program. Right now, we don't have a generator online, so we need to flare the gas,
okay, but
much like we do at the landfill, too.
we have a generator coming, or?
We do,
Okay.
yes. That's in the works. They're working on the design of that. So we used to have one generator, and we really had some problems with it. We are looking at 2 generators so that we'll have some redundancy, so if one goes down, the other one will continue to operate.
So,
That's under design right now by the engineers.
so in the past and in the future, we will be harvesting the methane and burning it to power the generator to produce electricity? Is that
Yes,
what we do?
yes,
Okay, good.
correct.
When we do jobs like that, how often does DES come in do they inspect the jobs, or is it just certain items at wastewater that they take a peek at?
No, they don't usually inspect our jobs, but they'll probably visit it maybe once a year. We just had a recent audit that you might recall from the
Right.
EPA and DES. But yeah, usually probably once a year they'll come. And we have a lot of reporting
Okay.
that we send them on a monthly basis.
Okay.
But- Winter trash collection, it's a huge challenge. Please ask residents not to put their toters in snowbanks, because it makes it very difficult for us to empty them. Hopefully, we're done.
Sometimes the tote is placed and then the city plows the snow against them, so then they become
That's
in the
true.
snowbank. So it's not
Mm.
necessarily the residents who buried the tote in the snow.
Yeah, well, we do ask residents not to put toters out in a snowstorm, unless, if we're picking, sometimes if we cancel trash, we ask residents not to put out their toter the night before, in the morning, so that doesn't happen, so we don't plow them. But you're right, the toters do create a challenge for plowing. And the much anticipated soft yard waste and oversized items will be returning as of Monday, April 16th. Residents can begin calling the solid waste department starting March 31st to schedule a pickup. So we've had a number of residents asking about that. The other thing is we gave you each a flyer for our household hazardous waste collections. They're on April 21st, June 7th, August 4th, October 6th, and November 3rd. Potentially, we will have a pickup in Milford on May 5th. But you can check our website, and that information is online as well. So. And the only other thing that I wanted to mention is it's been a tough winter. The staff has done a really great job. It looks like we are going to be, knock on wood if we don't have any other events, within our actual budget. So that's good news. And that's even including filling up the salt shed at the end of the year. So I'm very happy to be able to report that. We have an available balance of about $73,000 right now, which we expect to use up to fill the salt shed. So, that's it. Any questions?
Thank you.
Commissioner Ackerman?
Thank you. Just a couple of quick follow-up questions on things that came before the board in 2017. Is the bridge across Henry Burke Highway complete? The bridge, it's complete,
Engineer-
fixed,
yeah,
and
yes.
all? Okay.
Yes, but engineer, yeah. I don't know if you want to speak to that at all, but that has been cleared.
Yes, Steve Dukran. So the work we did was just enough to take the bridge off the red list. There was more work that could be done, but because of budget constraints, we just did enough to repair to make it safe again. But that job is complete.
Okay, great. One other question, and it'll probably be under the engineering department, was how long was the study going to be for the bridge along, is it Canal Street or Bridge Street?
Yeah.
Was that something that's is that
Working on.
ongoing?
That's ongoing. We actually just had the borings done. We had to wait for better weather. We had the borings done a couple nights ago to figure out what's going on underground. And so we have the geotechnical engineers interpreting that information, and the engineers will come up with a plan for repairing that bridge. So you're asking about whether it's canal or bridge? Actually, I think that's where Canal Street ends and Bridge Street begins. Right? You think so?
Yes,
Okay.
okay.
So it's like in between the two.
Terrific. More to follow. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Why don't we go to commissioners' comments? Commissioner Pappas?
I got a call that the last time we removed snow from downtown, and I think the snow was from Main Street, and it got put at the Holman Stadium parking lot. And just given the opioid crisis we have, I can see this happening. Someone had seen needles in the snow, and it's over at Holman now. There's tennis courts there, there's a school playground, there's a little playground outside the school, and there's Sergeant's Ave. So I did notice that we were starting to remove that snow from Holman, and I'm just wondering what we might do with some of the debris, because at this point, you never know what you're gonna find on the street. I know that some, residents, they put their garbage out, and unfortunately, because of this crisis, people will, throw needles in there. So, number one, I'm wondering if when we remove snow from Main Street, if it might be better to put it at the landfill. In I don't know how secure Crown Street is, but just given the amount of activity over there, and even the site issue, if you're going around that parking lot, when they say a snowplow, it's gigantic, and they had already started removing the snow when I had driven by. So I wasn't sure if you had heard that or aware of that, or what we might do with the trash that's remains after the snow.
We'll make sure that we send a sweeper. This was just a one-time situation. We've been putting snow at the Mansville site. Because the ground thought it was a bit of a mud bowl, and we wanted to get the snow off Main Street for St. Patrick's Day and quickly, and outdoor dining was coming into play, and restaurants were requesting that. So we just put a small amount at home, and our intent is not to put significant amounts of snow at home. And there already was a fair amount of snow at Holman, just from the parking lot in that area. But our intent is not to use Holman necessarily as a snow dump. We just used it in that instance. As far as the landfill goes, we can't pile snow at the landfill because of the monitoring wells and because of the sodium hits. So we can't bring snow, unfortunately. We are somewhat limited to where we can pile snow. We used to use Stello Stadium was a spot. And we started to see impacts to the Nashua River. So we're really limited on sites that we can bring snow at this point. But we'll make sure that any debris is picked up, and we sweep it up and get it picked up.
But even, does a street sweeper, it doesn't have like a vacuum type of thing? I mean, I would think that would require some visual
It
inspection.
might. It might. We may need to hand pick some of it. We'll do that if we need to.
And the other thing, in the past, I had noticed in this, I can't imagine that much snow, how much it costs to remove the snow. And I know if we might invest in like snow melters, I know that it probably can't deal with all our issue. But if we look at the price of those and see if maybe that's a I guess capital improvement's not the right word, but whatever fiscal term we would use to have such a, to invest in that sort of equipment, I think it might be worth us looking into.
We have looked into that. So there's a couple of problems. One, it's very, very expensive to operate. So that's the first issue. The second issue is you need a place to be able to discharge the water. So we would have to, the only place we could discharge it would be into the sewer system, and it would have to go to the treatment plant. So there's some challenges with it. Manchester has one. They used it once, and it sits because of the expense of operating it. So
I'm wondering if we can, as we say it's expensive, if we can find out if we can ask them how much it costs each time they use it, how much the equipment is, and then compare it to how much we've spent on overtime moving snow. Because I think that sometimes if we have direct comparisons and numbers,
I don't have those numbers at the top of my.
yeah, no,
But
I
we
wouldn't
did
expect.
we did look into that, and it wasn't cost effective.
And you'd have to move the snow to the melter.
Yeah, you do. You have to put it in, and it's fairly slow and it's very expensive, and then it's a little bit of a challenge because every time you're full, you need to discharge it into the sanitary sewer because you can't just dump it into the river or a catch basin. So it's a bit of a challenge. But we did look into that a few years ago, and it wasn't cost effective. And we did talk to Manchester, and like I said, they used theirs once, and it was so costly. They used so much diesel fuel that they didn't use it again.
I did look into that independently. I think the cost of the fuel is to get enough heat to melt all the snow is a lot. To bring about the melting of massive amounts of snow takes a lot of fuel. I think that's one of the big expense items, rather than waiting for the sun to do it.
In the future, I would hope that we think twice before we deposit snow at home, because I just think the number of kids that are over there, and the amount of activity, there's a pool, and just seeing the needles all over the place, I would
You
hope.
saw needles at Holman? Or,
I
saying
got
there's
a
needles
call,
in the
someone
snow.
who was doing snow removal from downtown, and it got deposited at home, and there were needles spotted.
okay, I will check that immediately. I was not.
But I mean,
I
you
wasn't
can't, you
aware of
wouldn't be
that.
able to see it in this, I remember that it's always amazing, once the snow piles melt, what we see in the trash there. So I would just hope that we would check that and
Absolutely,
look in the future. I don't know how much room we have at Crown Street, but just other locations the city owns, if it might be better than putting it at home. And
Crown Street is no longer available to plow snow. So,
Is that true? I don't know. Because of the
Why?
federal money?
because it's being
Technically a
rent-
park and ride?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
park and ride, and it's being.
I think it has to be maintained as a park and ride, because
That's
we
not our-
took
Yeah, I
a
think
couple $1 million of federal money to buy and
that's
then.
not under our purview, but I know that it's
pave
not
it.
available
So I
anymore.
think we have obligations to keep it
Okay.
open. you know. Even if there's no one there. We did take, I don't know, between 2.25 and 2.5 million of federal money to do
We
that.
can scour some of our city properties and maybe find a more appropriate spot to dump.
If you have any ideas, I'd love to hear. It's a challenge. It's becoming a challenge to find places to put snow.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
All right, any other commissioners' comments?
Could I say something?
Yes, that's, commissioners' comments, at least by implication, includes aldermanic liaisons' comments.
Okay.
So don't think you're excluded by the title of this category.
Okay, thank you. So I'm sure that everyone, I'm not unique about getting complaints about potholes. I'm sure everybody here is hearing those complaints. So could you take this opportunity to explain what the problem is with potholes? I've heard people complain, number one, that there are potholes, that, number two, when we fill them, they don't stay filled, and people are questioning the quality of the material we're using to fill them. And so, could you take this opportunity to explain to us what
Yeah.
what the situation is?
So, first of all, this is not unique to Nashua. Every community in New England has had a significant problem this year. So, and part of the reason, our streets are not in great condition, we all know that. That's why we're embarking on this paving plan over the next 5 years. But this year was sort of unique in that we had so much frost and so early, and then we had a couple of thaws after that, which really created a lot of problems. We haven't had frost like this in probably 150 years or so. So the frost was very deep, and the combination of the thaws just really wreaked havoc with our streets. The reason that you're probably hearing that the material's coming out is that for a couple of reasons. When it gets too cold, the hot asphalt plants are not open, so we have to use cold patch. Cold patch is just a temporary fix, and it will eventually come out. It's not a permanent fix. So when we use hot top, usually it won't come out, and it'll be a permanent fix. But the other challenge we had is we filled a lot of potholes, thousands, and then what happened, it snowed. So then when we plowed, that pulls the patch, unfortunately, out of the pothole. So then we're repatching the same holes over and over again. So that really has created some challenges. We do have a mill and fill program that's worked really, really well over a number of years. So we are tracking where a lot of our potholes are, and we will be using so we'll be milling out areas and repaving on streets where we're not going to be paving right away. So we will be implementing that in the spring as well. But yeah, it's been a tough year for potholes, there's no question.
Okay, and for anyone who has had the unfortunate circumstance of hitting a pothole and it's caused damage to their car, do they have any recourse?
They certainly can file a claim through the risk department, and we can do that. I will say, though, that the risk department almost never pays for a pothole claim. I think, there's been one in maybe the last 17 years or so that has been paid. So it's highly unlikely that there will be a paid claim for a pothole. So, but certainly residents can file a claim.
Okay.
And that's not up to me. That's up to the risk department to determine.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Pappas.
I have one more item, and I'm sorry, but it seems a shorter than usual agenda today. So I was looking through Robert's rules. I think this is page 488. Oh, sugar. I'm sorry. But I was looking about small boards, I was trying to save us some time here, but we are considered, I'm terrible with this. We are considered a small board. I think it's less than 10 people. There, yeah, thank you. All right, so in a small board that we actually don't need a second.
Well, our parliamentarian is not here, so
But it's-
that being Commissioner Moriarty.
No,
You
and
remember
that, I
when-
actually was gonna say that, but, yeah, but I was looking through.
Tap it
You remember
once,
when I
tap it
came, you
once.
remember when I came
He
in?
knows how much I hate technology here.
You remember when I came in, I was not asking for the second, because in the Board of
Yeah,
Aldermen,
so-
you use Masons, and there's no second required. So you guys kept cautioning
You know
me,
what?
you got a second, you gotta get a second.
Everyone says that shouldn't happen, and it always happens to me with technology. But we don't need it. It says in small boards, a small board is where there are not more than about a dozen members. That's certainly a small board. So we don't need a
Maybe we should
second.
adopt that as a rule. That's what I'm used to, is
All right, no
no
second,
second
yeah,
required.
no, I mean, that's what it says, and there's another page to it, but if I try to do this with my phone, we'll be here until 9 o'clock tonight. So I think we don't need seconds.
Well, if we adopt that as a rule, then it makes things a little more efficient.
Yeah,
The aldermen use Masons, and there's no seconds at all. And I think, I don't know about the school board, but I don't think, especially if you have Robert's authority, I don't think seconds really are required.
yeah, no, as they said, in small boards, you don't need it.
But we better take that up with Commissioner Moriarty, because he feels very strongly on this issue. So why don't we wait for him to come back?
I'll second your motion.
But I mean, if it's, if that's what it says in the rules, we don't need a second.
Well, correct, but let's at least tell him we're gonna, we're thinking about changing things.
We wouldn't change something without you having heard it first.
No, I didn't go to, yeah.
We could probably adopt our own rules on something like that. Alderman Jettie.
And I think the first question is whether or not all city boards are supposed to use Masons instead of Roberts.
I think it's just up to the board, there's no law that says Board of Public Works has to use Masons. The Board of Aldermen, in its discretion, uses Masons and always has. But for whatever reason, this board has been using Roberts. We don't get that many parliamentary issues. But when I came in, as I said, I'm used to no seconds, and the motion would be held, and I would call for a vote or something, and I kept getting, you gotta have that seconded, so now I've gotten into the habit of getting the second. Now you're gonna reverse course on me again.
Well, I am, I was
Another
looking through
U-turn.
the.
I don't know if I can get used to the new system, after finally getting used to it.
It'll make us a little bit more efficient,
It
not
would,
much, but.
yes. All right, any other commissioners' comments? If not, we will go to personnel. There is one item that's not in non-public session, which is a motion regarding a resignation.
Move to accept the resignation of Kristen Gustalza, close enough? Gustalza, analytical chemist, effective March 25, 2018.
Second. You're right, it's gonna be a hard habit to break.
Exactly, that's my point, yes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. Now we're going to go into non-public to address hiring issues. So is there a motion on that?
We have special language for that?
I move by roll call that the board go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91-A 3-2B, the hiring of any person as a public employee.
Oh,